Lots of land where your granddad used to hide away from your nan at weekends, sitting in his shed, reading Fly Fishing by J.R. Hartley. But demand has outstripped supply, which means if you want one, it's now a postcode lottery.
Under the 1908 Small Holdings and Allotment Act, every council in the UK is legally obliged to provide a sufficient number of allotments for persons residing in its area who want one. What that means in proper speak is that if you ask your council for an allotment, they're legally obliged to give you one, or at least put you on their waiting list.
Which is all well and good if you live in the Midlands, Nottingham or North Shropshire, where the average waiting time for an allotment is a mere 5 months. However, if you live in Camden, North London, get to the back of a very long queue, because the average waiting time there is 40 years.
But what if you believe that your council are not fulfilling their obligations? What if your council got rid of your local allotments, promised to replace them, and a full 15 years later have still not delivered on those promises? Would you take matters into your own hands? This is Ashton under Lyme, a small suburb of Manchester, where the mighty roar of the M60 motorway echoes across waving wastelands of rushes, ragwort and cabbages. Some might even say illegal cabbages, because they've been grown by a crack team of guerrilla gardeners calling themselves Ashton Allotment Action. On St George's Day 2011, after 8 years of false dawns and broken promises, Ashton Allotment Action decided to invade a patch of land that they claimed the council had promised would become a brand new allotment site.
When the motorway came through, the council decided to develop on all of the existing allotments. They promised us in return an alternative allotment site. This is the alternative allotment site, and it's still lying here, unused, neglected.
And the reason why it's neglected is because at the same time they set it aside for the new allotments, the council handed the land over to a development company, and they've been in dispute over its use ever since. 15 years on, it's a no-man's land of bracken and weeds, and the only thing growing in Ashton under Lyme is the allotment waiting list.
There's over 370 people on the waiting list for allotments in Ashton alone, and we have no allotments in Ashton.
And so, after 15 years of frustration, the garden guerrillas finally took up their tools, claimed squatters' rights and began to dig in.
The land was very overgrown. We've had to clear all of that weed growth before we could start to cultivate it.
We're growing everything that most people want to eat.
Broccoli and red cabbage.
Onions.
Jerusalem artichokes.
Parsnips.
Black currants.
Lots of potatoes.
And some apple as well.
You can grow lovely food, and yeah, it's all growing all round us here.
It's ideal. It's just that it should have been handed over to us over 7 years ago, before it became overgrown and neglected.
But while the fruit and veg are thriving,
Lovely.
the guerrilla gardeners are on stony ground. As squatters, they can be served an eviction notice any day. Still, with over 150 active members, the Ashton Allotment Action Group are determined to make hay while the sun shines.
I just come up here once or twice a week, pitch the tent just in case it rains. Very rare.
No rumpy-pumpy in the tent.
But there's a silver lining to the guerrilla's cloud, and he's called Dave Morris. Dave Morris is from the National Society of Allotment and Leisure Gardens, which was set up to preserve and protect allotments for future generations to enjoy. He's been supporting the group throughout their campaign.
How are things going then, Nigel?
Well, as you can see, we're still active here. We've cleared what is probably a standard allotment, 250 square metres approximately.
Yeah. Ashton's an area with, what, 40,000 people? And not a single allotment in it. The ratio you'd normally find of allotments, you'd expect over 100. The law on allotments basically says that where a council or local authority, parish, is aware that there is a demand for allotments, they should provide sufficient allotments to meet the need. It's not the strongest worded law, unfortunately. It doesn't lay down such as a timescale that they must provide them within 6 months, a year, whatever. And that is the get-out clause that councils use.
I don't know whether it'll be another 8 years, but we'll still be here. We're going to eventually have all of this site under cultivation. It will take some while because we're doing it by hand. It's quite hard work. We'll go back every month for updates from the council, but we don't hold out much hope with them.
In the meantime, Nigel and his fellow gorillas are determined to show the council that they are prepared to dig for victory to overturn this postcode lottery.
You help me.
We've got some nice potatoes there, haven't we? We're going to dig up a sample of this year's produce and we're going to present it to Tameside Council so that they can see what the potential is for the land here. We'd like to present these vegetables as a token to Tameside Council, and hopefully you could perhaps present that to them at the council meeting tomorrow. Right, thank you very much. I've now passed on the vegetables. They're going to be presented to the council tomorrow at a council meeting.
While Nigel's veg box diplomacy aims to win over the council through their stomach, Dave continues to be frustrated by the development company and the council's inability to use their heads and just sit down and sort it out.
They were promised allotments here. I've got maps which show it as allotments, but the council are saying they're still in negotiations with the developer about this. I've been calling for a meeting with developers and council to try and get them round a table for some months now, with little or no success, quite frankly.
And so, a full 15 years after the first promises were made, we have finally received the following separate statements from Staley Developments Limited and Tameside Borough Council.
Tameside Council said, as a borough, Tameside offers 760 full allotment plots. Tameside, in common with most local authorities, has seen an increased demand for allotments in recent years. The council currently has approximately 700 people on the allotment waiting list. And about the Ashton Moss allotments, they said, the original Ashton Moss allotments did not belong to the local authority, and the land currently occupied on Ashton Moss is privately owned. The council is keen to see the Ashton Moss site completed with some provision for allotments and will work with the site owners and developers to achieve this. Staley Development's response was, we have, over a considerable time, requested Tameside to clarify their requirements relating to the allotments and the specific uses of other areas of land within the site. At present, Staley Developments is waiting to hear from Tameside, but we are hopeful this matter can be resolved shortly.
Hey guys, here's a bit of a radical suggestion for you. Why don't you go lock yourselves in a room and don't come out until you've sorted it out, once and for all?